Hey, what's up Shrinkkeepers, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, what we're going to share with you guys is about trades and selection process. One of the reasons why we are doing this video is because one of the comments in the comment section, GB Streams from UK actually commented and said that he wanted to actually look at such content. And I was just thinking through, just nice that we are actually drafting out some of the pointers that I actually wanted to share with you guys about trades and selection process. It is a very big topic actually. It encompasses a lot of things, including from a process, from an infrastructure standpoint. There's a lot of things involved, and the reason why we have that is because one is always linked to the other. So we cannot talk about trades and selection without getting the fundamentals right. So the fundamentals is about the process. So there are actually three things that we want to share before we look at some of the things. Just quickly run through three of the things, three very important 3 pointers. So number one is the process. So what does process mean? It means that how do you operate, when do you do your water changes, your height of the rack, your time management, your capability of doing water change, and things like that. So these are the processes. These processes actually help you in your infrastructure and also your selection process, because both of them need your processes. Like for example, the way I do my water change is not the same way as you do. My height and somebody else's height is also different. So the racking of the tiers and the width or the working space between the tanks and the rack is also very different. It differs from people to people. So the process for infrastructure and the process for selection process is a totally different process. However, an overarching idea is that you need to have the process in place, because without a process in place, you are just simply doing it in an ad hoc manner. Ad hoc manner is not going to work for selection process, and I'm going to talk about the selection process in the later part of the video. First, we want to talk about the infrastructure kind of a process in the sense that the infrastructure, your rack placement, your tank, your air, your filter, your lights, and things like that. So these are some of the things that we have to think about. Like for example, in one of the videos, you can see the stream rack walkthrough. There's a lot of things involved. There's a lot of keeping it looks very simple, right? Like you just need the tank, you need the soil, you need the plants, you need the streams and things like that. So it's rather simple. However, the process to get there to simplicity is actually through complexity. What we actually did here is that we put all these complex ideas, and then make it very simple. So the output of complexity is actually simplicity. So that's where we actually wanted to go ahead, go forward. Then coming back to from a infrastructure and selection process, they share some similarities. Like for example, if you want to do grow out tank. So I had a discussion with one of the local breeders over here, and he was saying that his breeding tank is bigger than his grow out tank. So there's a little bit of maybe a miscommunication or misunderstanding, is that usually if you have a 60-liter tanks like this over here, this is an 80-liter tank. An 80-liter tank over here with let's say you're going to breed them, and you want to grow out. So normally you don't do it smaller. So your grow out tank should not be smaller than your main breeding tank. Let's say for example, if your main breeding tank is 80 liters, then your grow out tank has to be at least 80 liters or more, or things like that. So that's one of the things that it shares the same process not shares the same process, but it encompasses both the infrastructure and the selection process in that sense, because that is where you kind of like decide how is your configuration of the rack and the tanks will be. So for example, right now when we initially started, we do a 442 configuration, meaning a 4 tanks of 40 liters on the first tier, second tier, and then the final tier, which is the bottom tier, actually has the 80 liters tank. So once we have that fundamental setup right, then we move on to the next kind of rack, where we have a 422 configuration and then a 222 configuration. So different configuration based on your infrastructure and your needs and the process. So these are some of the things that we want to talk through before we actually go into the traits and selection. So with that in mind, then we talk about the source where your streams, your soil, your plants, your pots. So these are the source of the streams. I mean the source of where you get your stuff. Regardless of where you get them, this is a very very starting point of where you want to go. The starting point is also very critical, because if you start wrong, then you are keep breeding something that is, it may not be what you want. Like for example, when I first started, I actually wanted to breed a BFT, but they are not BFT. So what are they actually? So the very fundamental of everything, be it the process, the infrastructure, the source, I think that will set you up to success, or set you back to failure. So either way it will go. However, what is one important thing is that when we go through the sourcing strategy, I think that is very critical, because that will path the way where you want to go and how you actually develop. If you want to be successful, you want to be you want to breed good streams, definitely the very beginning of the source is very, very critical, because as you know, there are a lot of ways to actually wash the genetics away. Like for example, in this aquarium hobby, be it guppies, be it, there are a lot of ways to actually kind of like wash the genetics away, so that we don't get the true origin of the source. And that is something that is very, very critical, because between I think I did a post on main line and secondary line. I think that is very important. No, there is no hard and fast rule of what is right or what is wrong, as long as the seller or the breeder actually shares with you that, okay, this is actually a secondary line, which means that they are not the main line, which means they have been washed before. Can a secondary line become a main line? They will not be able to do it, because eventually down the line, maybe it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, 10 to 11 generation later, something may pop up. So this is something that we want to actually educate or put emphasis upon for different breeders who want to actually start this hobby. So now we come about traits and selection process. So traits and selection process is very simple, and I'm just going to walk you guys through some of the things. And I like to actually use very fundamental streams, because fundamental streams like, for example, Black King Kong or Black Ninja, these are kind of like the polar opposites, or they are kind of a different type of so-called streams. One is a Taiwan B, one is a crystalline. So Taiwan B streams, like for example the Black King Kong, they are actually they can actually get very black or very dark in the sense, but most importantly is that there's no true black in that sense, because color pigmentation in the stream world is generally blue, very dark blue. So which means that when they die, the color pigmentation that is being smeared onto the, let's say a piece of tissue paper, you can actually see that they are actually blue in color. It's just that the blue is very intense, and the pigmentations are very fine together, that give them the appearance of having it being black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you some of my tanks. I'm just going to show you some examples of what the traits that we actually look for. And of course, different type of streams, you look at it differently. However, but at the end of the day, the concept of how you actually look at it and the selection process actually begins with the traits that we actually want to see. And that is actually only just visual. That is a phenotype. So you actually only see what you actually like. However, it is not what you can actually breed it out, right? Because the genome is in the DNA structure. That is something that you cannot see. But does it mean that you will not be able to get there? Nope. So you can actually keep selecting them, and then you will be able to see. So long story short, I'm just going to pan this around. I'm just going to put it nearer. You can see over here, I just fed them so that it's easier to see. You can actually see over here, these are the Black Ninjas. The Black Ninjas with the one stripe at the back of the tail. You can see over here, like for example, what we want to achieve is that we do not want the one with the one stripe at the back. But you can actually see that over here, you can actually see these are very dark. The legs are dark. So that is what we want to see. And of course, this is another tank of the Black You can actually see some under the light that they are a little bit bluish. There's some reflection, especially this one over here. I'm just gonna make it brighter. Just gonna see how does it look. You can actually see there's a reflection. However, you can see that most importantly the legs must have color. I think I did a post over here. You can actually see that what is actually very critical in terms of the legs, that is very important to many. So as we move along, you can actually see that, okay, these are the red King Kong. So what we want to see over here is that we want to have the darker black on the reds, so it actually looks really nice in that sense. And of course, you can actually see that the red colors on the legs are not as easy to achieve as the black. So that's what we are working on, and we like to use simple streams like Red King Kong or Black King Kong to actually learn the process. And I would really encourage breeders to actually look at simple streams instead of trying to look at boas and things like that. The reason is because they are actually bred with other streams, and there are a lot of genetics involved, and the complexity in the genetics will throw out different things. So that's the reason why we want to actually look at some of these streams to learn in terms of the methodology of selection process. So like for example, like the traits, what are we looking at? We look at the color, and of course the color of the legs, and then we start to look at the patterns. But the thing is, we often have to look and think about, it's not just the streams, but it's the entire end-to-end process, where you have your infrastructure, where you have your selection process, all of this will play a huge role in determining whether will you be able to actually achieve there, to get there, and of course sustain the line. The reason is because it is not so straightforward. The ideology to get all of this together is actually to support the streams, giving them a higher chance in a better environment, because you can give a similar stream to another breeder, but because of the lack of process, the lack of a strong infrastructure, that will actually set the stream back by a couple of points. The reason is because the water quality may not be right. The water quality may not be as good as what you can have or what you can actually provide in that sense. So long story short, there are a lot of things involved in this trait and selection process. We have given those guys, like for example Yang from the US and John from India, when they were here, they actually were given a chance to actually do the selection process themselves. So I give them a task and they do it. This gives them the knowledge and the experience, the hands-on experience, to actually see that, oh, okay, this is how we do it. It's not that difficult. However, first we need to have that infrastructure. Like for example, a good case in point will be, you have like schools for students, for your kids to actually go to school. So all of this infrastructure is being set up so that they are in that environment, so that they can actually grow in that sense. It's the same for the streams as well. If you want to take a shortcut, there's no shortcut to success. If you want to mix the streams together and you try to get Wagyu beef out of normal cows, that's not gonna happen, because genetically they are already different. So source, that's the reason why I'm always coming back to the source. The source of the streams is highly critical. You need to know what you are getting. I think that's all for this video, and if you like this video, please remember to give a thumbs up, and if you like to see any of this see any of these videos, please write in the comment section below. So until next time, peace out.